counties in Oklahoma because of reports in them, 66 counties.
Giant Indians call it Maps of Vista, meaning giant monster.
These are some of the best cast footprints that I've seen in a very, very long time.
North Canadian River Project, we basically focus our investigations on the North Canadian River or central Oklahoma.
Welcome back to Squatch Ranger Files, episode 59. It's been a while since I've been on here, but I'm back. I've got a great episode for you guys. Thank you for being patient with me and still tuning in to Squatch Ranger. Just a few announcements. We have expanded the show to the Spotify for Podcasters platform, and we are very excited to be here. Spotify for Podcasters helps the show reach Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. We hope to grow our audience and are able to continue to bring you the latest Bigfoot reports from around the country. The show has also been added to the Amazon Music app under the podcast section. We are also very excited to be a part of the Amazon community. If you are a new listener to the show, welcome. You are now an official Squatch Ranger. Your duties include have an open mind, ask questions, trust but confirm, and always seek the truth. Thanks for joining the show. Okay, so we've had a recent article in the Mcalester News Capital newspaper about the 2023 Honubby Bigfoot Festival and Conference. That just happened on the first weekend of October. The article promoted No Bro and referenced a couple recent sighting reports our group has taken in the Mcalester, Oklahoma area. Our lead investigator, Troy Hudson, represented our organization very well in the article. The link to the article will be in the description of this video. Also, one of our members, Brian Terrell, was recently on Fox 25 Oklahoma City. He represented our organization very well in a nice news piece about No Bro and the recent sightings happening around the state. The link to that video will be in the description of this video. Now moving on to listener comments from a previous episode. This comment comes from Squatch Ranger Files episode 58. This comes from Dub H46. They say, great episode. I've wondered about how they could go from the Oklahoma summer heat to a windy Oklahoma winter. Sometimes the cold hits after a warm day, but like most animals, I guess they just have to adapt. Yes, I agree, Dub H46. I think the Sasquatch must have adapted and evolved and adapted, whatever terms you want to use, just like animals in the wildlife have to have done over the years. Thank you so much for writing into the show. Please, if you're a listener and you're hearing the podcast and you'd like to make a comment, we would love to hear from you and read your comment on the show. Also, that leads me to, if you'd like to share your encounter story with us, email squatchranger@gmail.com. We would love to feature your encounter story of Bigfoot or Sasquatch on this program. Okay, with that being said, we have a very, very special episode. We will start off with our most recent sighting report, which features a great trail camera picture that presents some very convincing evidence of the presence of a Sasquatch. Then we will hear 2 phone interviews of sightings that happened around the state of Oklahoma. It's going to be a great episode. I hope you're ready to listen. Let's dive in. Number 1. Man captures profile of unknown creature on trail camera. 2023. Southeast District. Pittsburgh, Latimer County, Oklahoma. Class B eye shine, vocalizations, and footprints. This report comes from a witness who reached out to the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization through our Facebook page via private message. Here is the witness's testimony. Hi, I just read an article about 2 encounters near Mcalester, Oklahoma, and No Bro, Troy Hudson were quoted in this article. I'm reaching out because I have a trail camera picture from my farm that has some kind of face profile on it. I am wondering if someone can take a look at the image and help me understand what it is. Could be nothing, but my whole family thinks it is a Sasquatch face. We have also heard incredibly loud howls and have seen eye reflection in our tree line that were about 9 feet off the ground. I would prefer to not have my name or our location made public if possible. Just looking for some clarification for what we are experiencing. Thanks for your time. Respectfully, name omitted. The first picture will be a large old doe that frequents this part of our property. We noted her head and shoulder position for height reference. The camera was located about 8 feet up on a tree above the trail. The face picture also has what might be an arm and hand on the ground under the face. To us, it looks like a face, eye ridge, nose, and chin with hair all over it. We don't know. Pics incoming. We went out and measured the face from the ground, and it was between 5 and 6 foot, based on the height of the back of the deer and where it was about halfway between the deer and the camera. What causes me problems is there are no animals on our farm that are this tall. Also, the camera triggered again, but nothing was on the captured image. There has been some weird things over the past year. We have had random branches broken off of trees all over the farm. It's like they were just pulled straight down. Some were almost 4 inches in diameter and were 11 feet high. Some were 6 or 8 feet high. Also, we've had some Bigfoot-shaped dents in the ground, but in odd places, like a left footprint right next to our woodshed with the instep facing the shed. The dent was about 3 or 4 inches longer than my boot, size 12. One night, my kids came and woke us up because they heard some very loud hollering from a field southwest of the house. We went and looked but couldn't find anything. We also found a pile of bones from some armadillos and coons. I figured that was a bobcat or owl. We have both species here, and some are huge. And when we first bought the property, date omitted, my daughter said she saw what she thought was someone running past her window between the barn and the house toward the woods. Again, we looked but didn't find anything. This caused us to build a 5-foot fence and get some large dogs. I do have a few cams now with video, but since this image, we haven't had any visible things happen, just the hollering and eye shine in the tree lines. Follow up, NOBRO investigators report. I spoke with the witness via the internet. This witness submitted a series of photos from his family farm that show a doe, the side profile of an unknown subject, and some photos without anything in the frame besides the natural background. The photo in question appears to show the side profile of a Sasquatch head and face. The witness points out what his family believes is a slanted cone head, a brow ridge, and a chin with hair on it. The timestamp on the photo is from April 4th, 2023. The witness contacted us on October 13th, 2023, 6 months after the picture was taken. The reason this witness reached out to Nobro is because he saw an article about our organization in the Mcalester newspaper advertising the upcoming Honabi Bigfoot Festival and Conference for 2023. This article sparked several eyewitnesses to come forward and share their experiences involving Sasquatch, this particular eyewitness being one of them. From our experience, we find that hoaxers are not that patient and wouldn't want to wait 6 months before coming forward to share a Bigfoot photo or evidence. Hoaxers tend to want instant attention from a prank. I went on to ask the witness what kind of trail camera was used and if they had any video recording trail cameras. I also asked if they had caught any other evidence with video. The witness replied, "This series is from a Tasco trail cam. The camera was about 8 foot off the ground on a tree, located about 30 feet behind one of our chicken coops. There is a deer trail crossing. The deer travel east, west, or north-south where the trails cross. Earlier, I thought the face was between the trail and the camera, but after looking at it again today, I can see it was standing or leaning over on its hands right in the deer trail. The cam pics attached are from before and after the face pic for reference." Besides the face profile, the witness points out that the camera caught something else in the bottom right-hand corner of the frame. The witness believes that the subject is leaning on its arm, possibly in a crouched position. The photos submitted are as followed. April 4th, 2023, 1:26 p.m. Provided daytime shot of the area for visual purposes. Unknown source triggered the camera. April 4th, 2023, 9:19 p.m. Profile of unknown subject on right-hand side of frame. April 4th, 2023, 9:19 p.m. and 53 seconds. Subject is out of frame. April 4th, 2023, 3:29 a.m. Small animal / critter enters the frame. April 6th, 2023, 12 a.m. Deer or doe entering the frame on the right-hand side. April 6th, 2023, 12 a.m. and 25 seconds. Deer / doe is in the center of the frame. The witness estimates the creature was between 5 to 6 feet tall as he stated in his testimony. We went out and measured the face from the ground, and it was between 5 and 6 foot, based on the height of the back of the deer and where it was about halfway between the deer and the camera. Nobro has requested to investigate the property, but the owner does not want to pursue an on-site investigation at this time. The owner did hint that he might be more open to an investigation in the future. At this point, our organization wants to conduct a recreation photo of the area with the trail camera to see if we can estimate a more accurate size of the creature. We will release that information at a later time in the investigation. Our investigators have pored over the internet for costume masks and Hollywood lookalikes. They could not find anything that resembles this photo. They have also looked at other websites and organizations for similar images. The photo of the head is either real or it's one excellent hoax. Thus far, our team cannot find any evidence to debunk this claim. This investigation is still ongoing.
Well, it was in the late 70s, probably 78 or 9, in Comanche County, Oklahoma, just west of Indiahoma. It was wintertime during quail season, which usually runs between, at that time, I think, starts in November 15th and runs till February 15th. So it would have been in that time. I remember the day was cloudy, cold, not freezing, but probably in the upper 30s or low 40s. And we had hunted this place before. It had a creek that ran down through the middle of it. And on either side was pasture land or farmland. And I was never fond of hunting this place because the birds were always along the river or the creek. And as soon as we got them up, they obviously fly to the other side of the creek, and it's very difficult to get across it to hunt for the singles. Anyway, I was going out there with my father and with his hunting buddy. So there was three of us. And we pulled up early in the morning. It was probably 7:30, maybe 8. And we were real quiet to go in through the gate, park inside on the rancher's property. And when we got out, we, of course, wouldn't slam our doors. We left the dogs in the dog boxes, and we would get our rifles or shotguns out and put our vests on and start putting shells in the pockets and that kind of thing. And while we were standing there doing that, all of a sudden, my dad's friend goes, "What the hell is that?" And we both turned and looked down towards the creek. And this place on the creek always had a cane field. And it was always there. Sometimes water was in it. You couldn't go in it. Or other times it was dry. And out of this cane field comes this figure walking upright, all one color. And the creek ran north and south, and it was running or going south, walking south. And it came walking out of there, and it was like 1, 2, gone. Because, and I say gone because just beside us, the property we were on was kind of divided between pasture and wheat field. And the wheat field was level, and the pasture sloped down to the creek. And so the creature, whatever it was, headed south, and the wheat field blocked it out from us seeing it any further. It was probably 150 yards from us, so didn't get a real good, detailed look of it, other than it was a medium brown, or what appeared to be, on a cloudy day. It wasn't a dark brown. It took like 2 or 3 steps and was gone. Didn't seem to be running or anything, just walking away from us. And me being college age and playing sports, I told my dad, I'm going to run across the wheat field and try and cut it off so we can see what it was. And he immediately said, no, don't do that. And I said, well, it's no problem. I won't, there's no birds out here in the wheat field. I'll just run over there and hopefully I can cut it off and get a better look at it. And he insisted I not do that. I respect my elders. I did not do it. And I regret not doing it. But I know that when we got down and started hunting, my head was always on a swivel looking for it, whatever it was. I asked my father what he thought it was, and he said, it's probably a hermit. I said, a hermit? Why is he staying in a cane field and not in somebody's barn? Because there's plenty of, vacant barns around the area. And plus being out there, freezing or near freezing weather. The other thing is, if it was a hermit, why did he run and not take belongings with him? So I didn't know what it was. I'd always heard about, Bigfoot being in the Pacific Northwest, like everybody. I hear everybody say that, and I never really believed it until I started listening to some of the podcasts, and then it dawned on me, years later, that's what that was that I saw. That the detail on it, it seems that it had a regular head. It wasn't the crested head like a lot of people say. It had a regular head or rounded head. It never looked at us. It wasn't as thick after I watched the Patty film. It wasn't as thick as she was. It was a lot trimmer. I'm going to go back out there and check the cane, but I'm estimating the cane is probably about 15 feet high. And this thing was either almost or right at half of the cane, so that had to put it somewhere around 6-7 foot, maybe 7.5 foot is what I would guess the height was based off. Like I said, I want to verify the cane height, but that's what I think it was. It's probably around a 7 foot creature, and we never saw it. I didn't think to look for tracks. I can't remember what the ground was like. It might be frozen, and if it was in the cane, there wouldn't have been any water in there like we would sometimes find. It was kind of a slough area, and so if it was in there, it must have been dry, and it could be hard and frozen, so it might not have left any tracks. I don't remember looking for tracks. I also didn't see any. So, but that's about what it was. It was real quick, real fast. All three of us saw it. All three of us saw the same thing. It's just nobody would say, what it might be. So I know that's not a detailed report, but it did tell me that there's something out there, and what other witnesses are saying. They're seeing something similar to what I saw. Yeah, I was on the west side.
So you were seeing it from like left to right or right to left?
Yes, I was on the west side, so it was moving left to right.
Okay.
North to south.
Okay.
Yes. The east side was a dead section, what they call a dead section line. And so sometimes we went in that side, but the road only came about halfway to the property. So then we had to just park in the dead section and walk the rest of the way. So usually we came in from the the west side. And so that's what the case was that day, is that we'd come in the west side. The movement was smooth. It took not quite three, two and a half steps, and it was gone. It had disappeared behind the difference in the elevation of the wheat field compared to the slope of the pasture. And it wasn't running. It wasn't in a hurry. It just walked out. Friend had enough time to say, "What the hell is that?" And we looked, and it was like 1, 2, gone. And so it moved. It moved fast, but not, it wasn't running. It just, the stride length is what made it move fast. But like I said, it wasn't running. It just walked what seemed like normal with its arms down towards its sides. I don't remember I saw the arms, and I would say they were probably mid-thigh on the thing. I know people say down to the knees, but this wasn't hunched over. It was straight up and walking. So there was a little swing to the arms, but not a Patty type swing where it was, she looked like she was in a hurry to get away. This thing didn't look like it was in that big of a hurry. It just It just walked out and was gone. There wasn't any wind. Yeah, it was medium brown. I don't know if that had a little cinnamon in it or not. It was cloudy, so everything kind of grays out a little bit. But it, I don't remember. It was too far away to really see details of hair. All I could see was colors. I could see from about the knee up to the head. No, I'd say it would be more like a linebacker. It was thicker. It just wasn't as thick as Patty was. So, but I've heard the descriptions of a basketball player, but this one wasn't that thin. Yeah, they were closed mouthed on it, and which what I know today compared to back then, I kick myself for not prying a little harder. But, my dad said it was probably a hermit. His friend just said he didn't know. But his friend used to scuba dive off oil rigs, or he was an oil rig inspector back in the early days of the Gulf rigs, out in the Gulf. He's done a lot of things like that. So he's seen a lot of things. He hunts a lot. Fishes a lot, and for him to just say like he didn't know something, it surprised me, because he's very open about telling stories and things, but he never mentioned that again. It's kind of one of those things, they probably had an idea what it was, but they just didn't want to say anything. No, I didn't, because I didn't figure they had seen it. I didn't know what it was, so I didn't know what to describe or say. I mean, you sound, back then it was kind of a joke, and it still is today, but I didn't talk to my mom about it. I probably should have talked to more people, but because we knew some ranchers in the area, and we used to go out to their ranches all the time for picnics or fireworks, whatever, and there's a lot of those old timers that I would have liked to talk to. But I just kind of forgot about it. I came across some of the podcasts on the internet and started listening, and one in particular was talking about Oklahoma and Caddo County, and I used to live for 10 years in Caddo County, and every place they talked about I had been to, but I had no idea that those creatures were around. I had no idea. And that's when I really started got interested in it. But by that time, my dad was very elderly and kind of, he just, didn't remember details a lot at that age. I really didn't have a fear of ridicule. I really just kind of just let it drop. Because I didn't know what it was, and it was so far away. It wasn't traumatic. It was, to me, it just sparked my curiosity. It didn't really, there wasn't any threat to it or to us from it, or, and I guess that's maybe why my dad didn't want me running after it, because maybe it could escalate into something, but because it was just a curiosity to me, I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I hike a lot, and then the Wichita Mountains, and there's not any bears, not in this area of the country. Eastern Oklahoma, they're starting to show up there, but there's no way it was a bear, because it walked out of the brush. It wouldn't have walked on two legs out of it. A bear would have walked on all four legs. I would think so, because the bear would be the closest thing to it. But most bears, not that I've been around a lot of bears, but when they're curious, when you startle them, they'll stand up. Not a threatening move, according to the wildlife biologists. It's just they're curious, and they're standing up to get a better look at you. but they rarely walk far or very far. The biologists say they'll drop down and run off. You know, this creature walked out of the cane into an open space and then behind the elevation of the wheat field, and it just did it in a smooth motion, like it wasn't worried about anything. But you know, it's like 2 steps and gone. It was pretty quick. Now, even with the Wichita Mountains here being a wildlife refuge, there's no talk or scenes or sightings of a black bear at all. There have been a couple of sightings of some mountain lions, but and they're not supposed to be here either. And I can attest that I came across mountain lion tracks. It's probably been 15, 20 years ago in the Wichitas. So I know that mountain lions have been there. They probably passed through. I don't know, if that's the actual habitat for them. But I do know they've been there, but not bears, not any kind of bear. I could be wrong on what it was, but for them to not want to say anything about it, and from what I saw, and it just didn't. It wasn't human, It walked like a human, but it was just a little too. The coloring from head to toe was the same, and not too many humans are wearing something the same. I mean, if you have something on your head or covering your head, it's usually a hat or especially being 40 degrees. Well, yes, our hats were orange, and our vests didn't have orange on them, but we wore orange hats. Well, you would think that, we just wore orange hats. I think deer hunters have to wear more than that, but just for quail hunting, it's really not during deer season. Well, I guess it is, but we always just wore hats.
I didn't even know about you guys. You literally showed up I was about to look something up on Google, and a story popped up about y'all. And so I was reading that, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. We have an organization here that's tracking this, because I tell people what I've seen, and they just kind of look at me. Some of them, they believe, and some are like, nah, you're crazy. I'm not. I know what I saw that night. When I saw it, I thought I was either dreaming or having some kind of hallucination from something. But just a few seconds after it walked by in front of that glass door, toward the end of my porch, my son's other Doberman, the female, was sleeping on the porch because she didn't want to come in. The male, he always wanted to come in at night when it was cold, and she always wanted to stay outside. And as soon as it walked by and disappeared out of my sight, she comes running down the porch, jumps up on the door with both paws, and just pushing on the door, hitting it with her paws as hard as she could. And I was just sitting in my chair looking at it going, do I want to let you in or just let you fend for yourself? I was just so freaked out. I didn't know what to think. It was, I just didn't know what to do. I was literally just mesmerized. I'm a combat Marine. I've served in combat, and I thought, yeah, I can handle anything. If I ever see one of these, I'm looking for, I'm looking for them. I'm going to see one day. And sure enough, I saw one, and I froze up. And I was like, this is not you. This is not how you react to things like this. The craziest thing was, when it happened, I'm still trying to, it was either I think it was the night after we had found out our son had been killed in a car wreck on Christmas night. And then this happened it happened the next night, just when this happened. almost like he was coming through to give his condolences. Is almost what it was like. Because we've been hearing sounds around here ever since we've been here. Almost 3 years on this piece of property. And when my wife and I first got here, we were out burning some limbs and stuff in the early spring, and we were cleaning up, and we started hearing limbs break. And for the longest time, we would hear hoots, like a hoot owl, but they were just hoots, and they'd come from different directions back and forth. And then we heard a big limb break, and I looked at her and said, "Oh, there's Bigfoot." She goes, "You just quit." And then one night, something happened between our house and the neighbor's house. The boys have to tell you more about that because they heard it. There was something in the woods between us, and they heard limbs breaking, all kinds of commotion. That's why I wanted to sit down with all three of them outside when we had more time, or both of them, so they could tell you everything they heard that night. And it seems to get really, we don't hear or see anything during the summer much when all the lake people are here, because we're right up against Corps of Engineer property, and I think there's 1,100 acres of Corps property in front of us. So we've got, but it gets not really much activity during the summer, but then when winter starts coming back, that's when we start hearing more things and stuff like that for footprints. But this ground out here is so hard. We have not found a footprint yet. And I listened to, I imagine you probably heard him, Cryptid 911, the guy that does the podcast here out of Oklahoma. He was talking to a guy here in Oklahoma who's seen him on the Red River, more toward Gainesville and stuff. And so that would make sense if they're running up and down the Red River in all those woods. I'm going to guess it was a male. I don't have a grade stick, so I could go out there and measure the exact height, but when you come off our front deck, it drops. There's a slope. So where he came across, at that time we just had a little bitty, the fluorescent bug light, and so it didn't shine very far out in the yard. But it shone far enough out there. He was probably about 10, 12 feet off the deck, but he was down a slope. And when he came across, he was in a profile to me, or sideways, and I could see his across his shoulders, and it was just this massive chest, body, and then the shoulder just sloped up into the head, and it was just kind of like a bell on top of it. It wasn't real pronounced. His shoulders just kind of went right up into the head. Yeah, it didn't look like a neck. From the way it drops down right there, it had to have been at least 8 to 9 feet tall. Once you go out there, because my son's 5'10", and he walks out there toward the trees. I had him do it afterwards we were talking about it, and he was walking out toward, there's an oak tree out there. I had him walk out off the deck, and I went in the house and sat in the chair and was looking out, and he gets really short as he goes down the slope. So this thing, he was massive, but it's never been aggressive. We've never had any, we haven't had any dogs disappear. The dogs do, sometimes they'll start barking and get really aggressive, but they won't get off the porch. And so one time we went out and we lined, because there's T-post, people used to run cattle out there, and it's the divider, there's barbed wire fence between us and the core property. We put apples all over it, but it was spring, summer, and we never did catch anything or see anything that they were just disappearing. before we ended up with our son's Dobermans living up here with us, we didn't have as many dogs and it was a lot quieter around here, we would hear those back and forth between us. I haven't heard any wood knocks, but then we would hear limbs break for no reason because, it's coming into spring. There's no snow. There's nothing on them. It wasn't like wintertime. And every once in a while, we'd hear a limb break or something. And we never got really excited. We just sat out there and kept the fire going and just kind of hollered out, "Hey, know you're there." And like I said, we've never had any problems, but we don't have any livestock down here, but there's a lot of deer and turkey and everything else around here, so that's not really an issue. There's plenty of food. If they're looking for food, there's lots of food around here. I haven't heard the whoops, no. Just the hoot owl, which was just, it would hoot over on one end of the property, and then we'd hear a hoot back from the other side. And we'd just hear some hooting back and forth, and then it just all quit. And we didn't hear anything else after that. He was just a black silhouette. The porch light was so weak at that time. After that, I replaced the porch light with a really high intensity LED light that lights up all the way to the outskirts of the yard now. See, he was just a black silhouette, and he was big. So I'm just assuming it was probably a male because this little boy, he was big. Ground was so dry at that time, and our ground out here is really hard. And ever since then, when we go down to the lake and we're on the beaches and stuff, I look for tracks, and I find turkey tracks, deer tracks, I find all kinds of animal tracks, but I have yet to see any footprints. But the Corps of Engineers also have blocked off access to our area where we're at now. So people won't be going, like next summer, there won't be anybody able to go out there with their trucks or four-wheelers and stuff and camp and ride up and down. The only people that can get in there are those of us that live right up against Corps property and have access off our private property. I think that might bring some more activity back in here. I'm just fascinated by them.